I'm very bullish on China. China has four big economic challenges, but if you're really looking at the nature of its fundamentals and the getting past those challenges, so here it is. The four challenges that it has is it has to do a debt restructuring, it has to do an economic restructuring, it has to develop its capital markets, and it has to manage its balance of payments. Those are the four major challenges. Every country in the world has had those. The United States had three major debt crises. We've had balance of payments challenges and all of those types of things. The real question is it denominated in your own currency? Is the debt primarily denominated in your own currency? And do you know how to manage these things well? So what we're seeing in China is we're seeing effective move toward the debt restructurings. You're seeing, and as we pass the 19th People's Congress and so on, you're going to see more of that that kind of move. There's a very impressive economic restructuring going on. There's the old industries, the state-owned enterprises and those old industries, and there's the development, the fast development of wonderful new industries, cutting edge that are fantastic. You know, when I went to China originally and started in 1984, I would bring a $10 calculator to them, and they thought that was like a miracle. And now I'm watching in terms of where they are in artificial intelligence and all of those things, and it's comparable to where we are, and for very good reasons. So we're having an economic restructuring that's very effective. In terms of the capital markets development, wow. I mean, you know, link Hong Kong and the development of securities over the last few years, the ability really to develop the liquidity, the depth of those markets, the openness of those markets, extremely effective. And in terms of dealing with its balance of payments, it's dealing with its balance of payments effectively. And the reason it is because they have capable leaders. I know the economic leaders, the people who are there. I know, you know, how well, what are their skill sets and how are they managing that? And they have, you know, an advantage in some respects in terms of the ability to control some of those things. So, so I'm very, very impressed. If you take a look at then their underlying fundamentals, the education of their kids, this move to reform. In other words, reform means, in other words, becoming a much more market-oriented economy, and also rule of law, eliminating corruption or reducing corruption. Look at the incredibly impressive accomplishments there. I feel good about the leadership of China, the capabilities, not only at the highest level, but also particularly on the economy. And then I'm looking at that. So those are issues that, you know, they create little bumps along the way. I think people misunderstand China because these problems existing, a lot of people thought were problems that are going to be terrible for China, but they don't understand essentially the engineering. And you have to look back and say that it's been an impressive track record consistently, really, since Deng Xiaoping came to power, right? And it was very similar. Deng Xiaoping was quite similar to, let's say, a capitalist. Okay, if you say who's had the quote, "It's glorious to be rich," that was Deng Xiaoping as they brought it to China, and that's continued in terms of creating that type of and the political risks are not high political risks. So they have to build rule of law. Anyway, I'm answering the question too long, but I'm bullish on China and its capabilities. They will have to change. The economy is no longer going to be the cheaply produced things, but that's okay because they'll have the capacity to do that. Anyway, over to you.